Well, hello everyone. How are you tonight? See, I'm an actual person. I hope everyone can hear me just fine. If you can't, please let me know if it looks like I'm just talking and you're hearing nothing. Oh, good. You can hear me? Fine. Then I can start in with everything. That was my concern. Yeah, my face isn't present in a lot of videos, that's for sure. I'm just one of those guys that, ah, I don't think you need to see my face all that much. Here, I'll just throw a video up in the middle there. How's everyone doing? And soon I'm going to hop in my Discord chat, so if you're in Discord too, you can pop in and talk to me there. In fact, I'll do that right now. Why not? And hopefully that works. I haven't really tested that out yet, so I don't know. Obviously, I'm here. Take your questions if you have any questions to ask. And iconic silhouette. See, I don't think I have my cam positioned all that well. I've only got so much space, I'm limited. And it's a crappy webcam too. I think it's only 720. I don't know. It's lousy anyway. Yes, M Comic Man, I can see your chat messages. I can see them just fine. So obviously, I'm doing this to promote the grand old GoFundMe, which is in links below. Same with my Discord if you want to join that. Or any other links to my stuff, my boring stuff. I really don't know what to say. I have nothing prepared whatsoever, so I'm just babbling until somebody asks me something. How's the new computer? The new computer is pretty awesome. It makes it possible for me to actually stream, because the old one just was impossible. I would probably stream some games if I had a second monitor. That way I could see like chat, and as people come in and say hey or whatever, I could say hey back. Right now I could only just stream the game and I wouldn't be able to see the chat. And it sounds like someone's joined me in Discord. Hello, Nick.
Sup?
Not much. How about you?
Just busy writing.
Oh, what are you writing? Well, I know you've got a project on the go, but tell everyone about it.
If anyone has ever seen the movie Sky High, it's about the mom from that movie.
And how deep are you into it? Like 3 chapters?
3 chapters.
And now, do you have a question for this terribly boring person to answer? I put you on the spot. You don't. If you don't, that's cool, man. Don't worry about it.
What is your favorite written work by Jeff Johns?
Hmm. Hmm. I might have to go with his Green Lantern run. I thought he did a pretty solid job. Um, and I mean, Rebirth was pretty good for taking in all his convoluted continuity and sort of making sense of it. I also like JSA too, to be honest with you. I don't like it when he tries to get too serious because I don't think he has it in him.
Oh, I agree.
And here's a question in the chat. Have you heard they are returning the Vertigo label at DC? Yes, I saw that this morning that Vertigo is returning to DC, and I think it's just the Tinian series, Nice House by the Sea, that's going to be published first, I think. I mean, I think that's currently running, if I'm not mistaken, but I think it's going to switch over to Vertigo. I mean, it could be successful. I think they've got a lot of work to do. They have to offer creators a lot of incentive to publish with Vertigo, much more than they did in the past. Because I think, in my opinion, I think because Image gives them complete creative control over their projects, that if you had to choose between Vertigo and Image, you're probably better off going with Image, even if you have a lower profile. If your comic is a hit, you have a higher return, whereas you're not sharing it with, Warner Brothers. Did I like 100 Bullets? Yeah, could you possibly do a video on the series? If you look in the archive, I think you'll find one called 88 Lines About 100 Bullets. Thoughts on webcomics? I think they're just fine. I don't cover them because I'm being very specific. I'm specializing in one medium as opposed to jumping all around. The early days of my channel, I jumped all pardon me. I jumped all around between movies, TV, anything I really wanted to do. And now I'm just focused on comic books. So web comics are outside that. Even though they're a similar genre or a similar medium, they're not exactly the same medium. So I love you, man. Please don't stop. I have no intention of stopping. Now that I have a new computer and I can produce, I can tell you right now, I have 2 videos I'm working on right now and trying to rebuild a third. There's the third one is one that I lost when my hard drive crashed, and it was almost complete. And I actually lost the script to it too. So I have to rewrite it and re-edit it, which is no fun, but I'll get to it. It'll probably be the third one. I'll probably do it next week or the week after. Have you read any 2000 AD comics? Yep, I sure have. Dread, of course, and Nemesis the Warlock. That's really it, I have to admit. And Halo Jones, of course. Continuing your Discovering Manga series, yeah, I do. I intend to. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. It's one of those back burner projects because whenever I cover manga, it does really poorly. Like it does, it does like the third of the views. Even though everyone tells me manga is extremely popular, it isn't for my channel. It might be for other channels. What was the best decade of comics? The 80s. And I can justify that opinion, not just because it's, when I was younger and everything was appealing to me. It's because it really felt like the medium was changing at that point. It was maturing, it was becoming more accepted, and that all led to its popularity that you see, circa 1988 to like 1993 when the bottom fell out. So because it was maturing and becoming popular and all that jazz, it makes it a better decade than most. Like you could also say the 60s were pretty awesome too, but I wasn't around then, so I don't have the personal experience to say whether the 60s are comparable to the 80s. They look like it, something similar. How did I feel to get the Comic Drake show? I thought that was extremely humbling. I've said to Drake in public that I wasn't even aware, or in public, in private, that I wasn't even aware that anyone was even remotely aware about anyone in the Comics Tube community was even aware of this channel or paid any attention to it whatsoever. So it it was intensely humbling to have someone reach out and mention my current situation. And, I can't thank him enough. It was a really, 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 really kind gesture. I appreciated it a lot. What's a guilty pleasure? Um, I I have to admit, I was just this weekend. I was watching. It's called Rivals, and it's this really trashy, it's kind of soap opera ish miniseries from Britain, based on a Jilly Cooper novel of the same name, and that was a guilty pleasure. I just kind of enjoyed it because it was so ridiculous and silly. Not as ridiculous and silly as, like, say, a Ryan Murphy project, which I think is just way over the top and campy. There's something to be said about camp, but when you play into it too much, it kind of gets a little, I don't know. It just doesn't feel right. But Rivals, I think, is just right on the money. Also, it stars David Tennant, so one of the best Doctor Who's ever. You can't complain. The Canadian Silver Age, 75 to 89, is the best era of comics for me. There was some great stuff, some very low profile stuff in that. And I don't disagree. Ladies and gentlemen, that noise means that Ruby St. Dennis has joined us. Hello,
It's
Ruby.
true. I have joined. Hello.
How are you doing this evening?
Doing all right. How about yourself? And how's everyone else doing?
I do fine.
Good.
What are you up to, Ruby? I had a feeling you'd probably drop by if you saw me in a chat.
Well, I mean, I like to drop by as much as I can in a mod capacity. But yes, I Sunday nights are my usual nights that I hang out and play video games. So I'm not
Yes.
doing much else except hanging out
And-
playing video games.
And we might do that together later, maybe. Depends on how
Maybe.
long this goes.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. But it's good to have you
Or-
around.
Of course.
Now let's see.
I'll also say that'd be an exciting, fun stream idea right there. Is get yourself a nice, cool stream where you show everyone how to do an Imperious task force in City of Heroes.
Yeah. You see, I do want to stream City of Heroes. The only thing holding me back is a second monitor so I can see chat. Because I can easily do it. Like, I can stream it. I just won't be able to answer anyone's questions.
You can do a chat overlay with Discord where you can actually overlay what's happening with the chat.
Yeah, that's
On your one screen that is always up. So it would take up a section of your screen, but the viewers wouldn't see it.
Oh, I see. And I'll test it out this week then, because I know right now I can easily stream City of Heroes, no problem. I've tested that out. But it's a matter of just being able to respond to, chat, whenever somebody comes in and says something, and at least acknowledge people, at the very least.
You can very easily get it so that you know who's in the call at the time.
Okay,
that
cool.
one is incredibly easy to do.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to literally see what people are posting in chat, that is also something you can overlay.
Yeah, and I have a friend that might give me a second monitor to borrow for a little while so that I can do that. So that would be cool. That would be ideal, a second monitor, just so I can play games and look to the side. It's just more convenient. That way I don't have anything messing up my game.
No,
Because
I
I'm,
get you, 'cause
'cause I'm so
I-
super
I-
serious.
No, I get you. I have the two monitor setup. Well, I have probably the strangest two monitor setup anyone's ever seen. Which now I feel like I have to post to.
Yeah,
get some
yeah.
of
Now you have
the,
to show it in chat. Yeah.
I will have to get some of the I have to get some of the dirty dishes off my desk. And hot girl shit.
Yeah.
Let me get all these
Well, let me get back to the chat here. There's some questions I know I've missed, so I'm scrolling up. Let's see. Guilty pleasures. I got that. If I could go back in time and interview one comic book creator who has passed away, who would it be and why? Um, you're seeing on your screen, you're seeing Bernie Moreau's video, and I would go back and talk to him and let him know that his work was appreciated, and maybe his fate would have changed a little bit, and I would have gladly spoken to him for 2-3 hours or however long he wanted to spend with me, easily. I'm not sure who else. Steve Gerber, of course. I would have loved to just talk, just had a conversation with him. That's all.
Yeah, because I was curious what kind of questions you would ask him.
Steve Gerber?
Yeah.
I would say I would ask about the environment of Marvel in the 70s. Like, was it actually as batshit crazy as it seems? Because it really seems like it was like a wild, chaotic environment. And I just want to get his perspective on it. And at one point, did he start taking the job seriously? I mean, I have my suspicions. It was probably around the time that he got Howard the Duck and Omega. But I want to hear. I would want him to say, like, hey, this, maybe it was this point in Defenders when I was really getting away with a lot of stuff, and I thought, you know what, maybe I can do something that actually matters in this field, and I would just, I'd like to know, not really his process. I don't think that's helpful to anyone because everyone's process is the same. I sit in front of a blank screen and I keep typing until something's done. But I would just, I think that's where I'd start and then just see where it goes from there. Just try to have an organic conversation with him.
For me, that would be George Perez.
Hmm. And why? What would you ask him?
I would ask him like what it was like to work on the new Teen Titans and the Crisis on Infinite Earths miniseries in the 80s.
And
Having
would
to
you,
work on two big high-profile DC titles at the same time.
well, I would ask him along that lines, did he know that they were going to be complete game changers at the time he was working on them? And if not, when did it become obvious that these were, I mean, Crisis maybe, that was a pretty obvious one, but maybe not so much with the Teen Titans. And and I would ask, is that when you think you made it in the field? Because he'd done a lot of work before then.
Oh, absolutely. That actually would be a good question to ask.
Let's see, another question in the chat. Are we ever going to see a crossover between you and another channel? Maybe. I don't know. There's nothing in the pipeline at the moment. I'm always open to a collaboration. I will admit I can be slow to respond at times, especially at certain points during the week. And it seems like I'm unreachable. I'm always reachable on Discord now. If you at me on Discord, usually within a few hours I've answered. But I'm also selective about what I do. I might be a difficult person to collaborate with, is what I'm trying to say, because I'm very particular. And some of my scripts take months, even though it might be like an 8-minute or 10-minute video. I've probably sat on it for a month going, is it really worthwhile me doing? And I'd hate to put someone else through that sort of, it's not indecision, it's me deciding whether something is a piece, has enough quality for me to put it out there for people to see. That's all it is. And I'd hate to have someone sit there for weeks and go, seriously, dude, you're just doing a 5-minute piece. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just give it to me, And I have no problem doing that to myself, but to someone else, that seems like quite the burden. Let's see. Do you think Dark Horse is an overrated or underrated publisher? I mean, I think they're just a publisher. I don't think they're either overrated or underrated. I think they were very well thought of when they first came around, and they've just managed to survive. I've never ever heard anyone say that they're overrated. Maybe underrated, a touch. I don't know. It's difficult for me to say. I think they're just exactly where they should be. Will you do an Alan Davis retrospect and even John Cassaday? Probably not. I usually don't focus on artists. But I never say never. It's possible. There's nothing on my brain that says I would do that immediately. Have you ever read Umbrella Academy? And if so, what are your thoughts on it and Gerard Way's comics in general? Gerard Way's comics don't really appeal to me. They should. They really should, because I'm sort of the person he's aiming for. I think they're okay. But I don't find them outstanding. I don't know what it is. It might be just that his writing doesn't appeal to me. That's it.
Can I give a hot take?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
I think it doesn't appeal to you because you liked Doom Patrol the first time around.
That might be it. I don't
like. I love Gerard Way, but and I like his comics, but like Umbrella Academy is just a new version of Doom Patrol.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, and I don't disagree whatsoever. And yeah, you're better off just reading Doom Patrol. And I wasn't even a huge fan of his own Doom Patrol, his own version. I didn't hate it, but it seems to me, other than Rachel Pollack, everyone has tried to copy Grant's formula, and it doesn't work. You know what I mean? It seems like they're trying to copy Grant Morrison. And I that's kind of how I felt about Gerard Way's Doom Patrol. It kind of like he was just doing a greatest hits of Morrison.
I think that's incredibly like fair because I greatly appreciate you saying that Rachel Pollack didn't try to just do Grant because
no.
That is my second favorite Doom Patrol run.
Yes, I know. Even though the writing didn't appeal to me whatsoever, I get why it would appeal to a select audience. I'm just not. Yeah,
it's just me.
It's just not my. It's just nothing that would appeal to me or did appeal to me. But I could see the appeal, which is how I feel about a lot of works. Like they might not speak to me, but I can see why it would appeal to someone else. Like Mark Miller's a perfect example. Absolutely loathe his writing. You know, I'm not blowing anyone's mind by saying that, but I perfectly understand if somebody thinks this is the greatest writer I've ever read. I just love his work, and be like, cool, man. I get it. I get why you feel that way. I just have a different tastes. That's all it is. Hey, Sebas, doing animation homework right now. Well, I hope you. I hope it goes well. Don't worry about whether you can give or not. That's my kind of overall message. If you can give, excellent. I appreciate it. You're all darlings to me. But don't feel obligated to help me out. If you can, great. But if you can't, that's cool, man. Just your eyeballs on the screen is all I ask. So what are you playing tonight, Ruby? Are you in City of Heroes?
I am in City of Heroes.
Which character are you playing? Can I ask? Do you mind revealing that?
No, I don't mind. I feel like I'm not going to keep it as like secret information. I'm currently running around at Golden Hour because I want to finally get my tier 4s up on the Incarnate system.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, you want all the Incarnate.
I because halfway through that sentence I realized how nerdy that sounds.
Oh man, you can't be too City of Heroes nerdy with me. I mean, you know my past with that game.
I know, but like it's more one of those things where it's like I'm imagining another person hearing, what the fuck does like tier 4 mean?
What the hell's an Incarnate?
What do you want about? That's what you sound anytime you get way too into a video game ever. That's how you always end up sounding. Like hearing people talk about the meta in Pokemon which is I fun fact, I used to be on the Pokemon circuit for the games and the actual
We see now I've lost a lot of respect for you. I used to respect you.
yeah, I'm
Now I
sorry.
don't.
And what makes it feel any better, I used to dress up as a Steel Gym type leader, and I had my whole shtick with it too.
But see, now I just have to edit all of this out of the video because I'm just too embarrassed for you. I've like just
Oh no!
no. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Thank you, Mark Fields. Thank you for the donation. I greatly appreciate it. I'm not currently watching it, so I don't know if I'm if anyone's donating. If you are, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Um, I don't know what else to say. I'm stupidly Canadian, and when people are very kind to me, I don't know what to say other than thank you. And of course, there's the whole, making videos in a complete vacuum. I don't, even though I have a comment section, I don't really run through it like all day, every day. So to me, I'm just making these things, throwing them out. I see, a number of people watched them, cool. But otherwise, I feel I don't want to say disconnected because that sounds very negative, but I'm not really aware of, the amount of people that actually do enjoy the work I do. And it's probably good. That way my ego doesn't get fed. It's better if I feel like I'm just in this isolated bubble and I'm creating shit and putting it out there and people go, oh, cool. Do you find more enjoyment reading mainstream superhero comics or alternative indie comics? The only answer to that question is it depends on the quality of the writing. Genre matters very little to me. There are great superhero comics and there's great alternative indie comics. Is it weighted to one side more than the other? Probably towards alternate indie stuff because that appeals to my sensibilities. But there's also superhero stuff that appeals to my sensibilities too. I would hold up New Frontier, of course, Astro City. Those two right there, just two great superhero stories, along with, of course, Watchmen, Dark Knight Returns, all that jazz.
Can I riff on that question a bit?
Yeah, please do.
What is your favorite, or I guess riff on your answer? What's your favorite Astro City stories? I'm very curious. As someone who just read through all of Astro City and had a very up and down feeling on the book as a whole.
Yeah,
I'm curious what your favorite parts were.
right now. I'm doing exactly what you just said. I'm reading through the entire thing, and so I'm only up to like volume 4, and there's 17 volumes, right? So I don't really have an answer right now. I think the very first volume is my favorite. The third volume about the Robert Mitchum shiny character. I can't remember his name. Just released from prison, and he's trying to track down all the killer of all. Yeah, I can't remember their name. Anyway, that volume, it was clearly. Well, that's the thing is, I know it should really appeal to me, but I'm finding it boring.
Really?
And yeah, I am. And I was, and my memory said this was a great story. Pardon me. But rereading it now, I'm like, my God, this is just dragging on and on. And that shocked me. I thought that was going to be one of my favorites. But so far, out of the 3 volumes I've reread, the first one is my favorite so far.
So I don't remember which one volumes were what, but have you gotten to the history of the Silver Agent by that point?
No, haven't gotten to that yet.
I'm very curious what your feelings on that one is, because I think that's my most divisive of feelings on for the most. Yeah, I guess volume 3 would be before Dark Age. In general, I feel like I have a divisive opinion on Dark Age. I don't want to say too much, but
yeah,
I'm
don't color my opinion because my memory is really foggy. With because I think when I read it originally, I read it like in bulk, in like maybe not in a few days, but over a week. And I was just like, oh, this is so cool. And this was like, a decade, maybe 20 years ago, actually, now that I think about it. So all the details are really foggy, but I always had fond memories of it. Um, and that's why I really want to do a reread. Plus, I've mentioned it so often recently that it seems like I should probably do a video on it. Since I keep saying it's great, but I don't justify that statement other than to say it's great.
I mean, I think sometimes it's difficult because like happiness rates white. Like I think with Astro City, for as like good as it is a lot of the time, it depends on
Hmm.
the arc, and I don't know if
It
there's
really
a
does. Yeah.
there's not a distinct thing to say about like the whole of it. I in the same way that you could easily say something succinct and very thoroughful about say like Watchmen. Like it doesn't
Hmm.
it's not the same sort of quality. So I think
Well,
I understand why that would be difficult.
yeah, I agree. It doesn't require an in-depth sort of analysis. Um, but it can, like, just an overview of the way I'm approaching it is an overview of each volume, sort of like a real, sort of summarizing like the main beats, main character beats, really, and maybe which character, like, a lot of it has to do, my first draft so far has a lot of it is about how the characters are sort of a homage to other characters, but they're also a pastiche of probably like three or four different characters. So
Yeah.
you can say one character looks like this is Superman. This is the Superman character, but not really, because they have
I
all
think
these other quirks.
because I think they're as much as they are like an homage or a pastiche, I also think in many ways they're a criticism of. Like I think Winged Victory is a clear criticism of
Yeah.
I don't know if like Wonder Woman as a whole, but at the very least, like
I think
definitely the Perez Wonder Woman run.
I think it's a criticism of maybe the Wonder Woman. I wasn't thinking that specific. I was thinking more in the general terms of like the warrior woman archetype.
Yeah.
It's kind of making. I don't want to say it's making fun of that, but it's just kind of saying we can do better than this, guys. Come on.
I think it is saying that, and I think it's trying to also be better, but I also think
Hmm.
it, I mean, not the hottest take to say that I think Winged Victory is one of the weaker elements of the series.
Yeah,
So
I think so too. Not the best character in that series. I'm not sure which one is so far.
I mean, for me, it's always going to be Confessor. I just really love Confessions. I think that's my favorite arc from that.
Hmm.
Clearly, Marvel liked that arc a lot too because they basically used it as the basis of Civil War and then into Secret Invasion. So
Hmm.
I'd be
I can see
shocked
that.
if that wasn't actually like part of the brain space. Like if it was just a serendipitous thing, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, who know? Yeah, because Busiek wasn't part of the Brain Trust during that
Yep.
time. No. Let's see other questions here. Favorite Sandman arc? He thinks. Um, maybe a dollhouse. Maybe. I thought because I thought after that, after a dollhouse, it kind of got a little bit too into itself, I think. And before that, I mean, it was successful at that point, but then it seemed to become a major success after that, after Adult's House. Um, so it still seemed like Gaiman had some humility, maybe. I don't know. That's the one that maybe appealed to me the most. Let's see. Do you have any favorite horror titles? Not offhand, to be honest with you. I probably don't read a lot of horror comics. I mean, I have when I was younger, but I can't think of any that are my favorites, to be honest with you. Kirby or Ditko? I mean,
That's unfair.
that
That's
that
an
is
unfair.
that is an unfair question. Like, there's no right answer to it. My immediate answer is Ditko, because he just he walked away from it all, man. Like, you want to talk about a real artist who went out and tried to, and and kind of failed, but went out on his own because he didn't want to play in the system anymore because he had some weird moralistic ideas. I still think that's cool, even though I disagree with him on a lot of stuff. At the same time, there's Kirby, who, for all his flaws, which is in an upcoming video, by the way, my next one, was a damn workhorse. Damn, that guy did a lot of work. So, I mean, it's an unfair question. If you had a gun to my head, it would be Ditko, for the reasons previously stated.
And I think also, like, yeah, we don't ever have to ask the question of what would Ditko's work look like if he wasn't tied to DC or Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the closest we have for that answer with like Jack Kirby is like, I always pick on Satan 6, and I feel like I shouldn't pick on it so much. But like, I think that's like the closest we have. Like, we have Kirby well after his prime.
And Captain Victory. I would go with Captain Victory first, because that came first. Satan 6 was like pretty much he was on his deathbed by the time that was published.
Yeah. I think Captain Victory is probably there. But I also think that like I mean, we wouldn't have Marvel the way that we look at it without Kirby, but I don't know how much freedom he necessarily had and how much he was making for himself and how much he was making. We don't even necessarily, like, I think there's an argument to be made that would Jack Kirby have done comics if he wasn't doing comics? Like, if he had another career path that he could have taken, would he have still chosen comics? Or was comics the thing that was chosen for him by the hand of fate?
I don't know. I don't know enough about his early life, and like I know he started pretty young, but I don't know. It might, like, I get what you're saying. Like, maybe is it just something he like he fell into it? I think it was because I think it was something he really pursued because, from what I understand, he did a lot of drawing, so he kind of just put it to good use.
And I think that's definitely how it started. But I wonder if he had greater options for his art, would he have done comics? Like how many, like let's look at like Alex Ross. Alex Ross did comics because he loved comics.
Yes.
Does he do comics now? Like, I guess he still does covers, but like, I know for the most part, the money he's making is not from drawing comics, and it's from everything else he does. So
yeah, I mean, the last thing he did was the Fantastic Four Full Circle. Is that what it was called? I think.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
But yeah, like so I wonder, like, if Jack Kirby had options outside of, because he was clearly burned by DC and Marvel multiple times, but did he feel like he had options outside of DC Marvel? I guess he kind of like knew that other like organizations existed, but he was always a guy who was there to support his family. So yeah, I think that's the tragedy of Kirby is I don't know what his creator owned work where he made it completely on his own brow. I don't know what that would have looked like. But I certainly know what Steve Ditko would have done.
Yeah, we have evidence of that. We have lots of evidence of that.
And it's weird, and it's truly,
I mean,
truly
when
bizarre.
You think about it, I don't think Kirby really had aspirations to take that same path. I think he liked having a publisher.
Yeah.
And I guess to some degree, like some editorial interference, just a very like a little droplet of it. But yeah, I don't know. Let me pick another question here.
It's a sad question to think about. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. I don't know if he had other options. I think he probably would have taken them if he did. And I mean, he did eventually when he left Marvel the second time. You know, he went into animation because it was much more stable and it offered benefits. For the first time in his life, he actually got benefits. Go figure that.
Maybe. I mean, that's really sad, but
it really is, isn't it?
I think that's the question. Like, I'm imagining he probably was like good enough. Maybe he did stay with Marvel DC because he did like and really wanted to do that, and ended up going to animation because he didn't have other options. Because now I'm thinking, like, Yeah, he probably was good enough even back in the 60s to have leveraged that into animation.
I would think so, and it's just something, for whatever reason, he never took that option. I don't know why. It's
These
almost
are the
like,
questions we should have asked him.
yeah, Kirby, come back to life and tell us, please.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're doing a disservice to your fans.
Oh, see, now he's rolling in his grave, hearing that. Okay. Oh, now I'm feeling sad. Okay, what's the next one?
I don't know.
Pick one that's
I
not
see a
bad.
few other people have popped into our chat. Hello, Greg, and hello, come to.
Yes, I am seeing in the chat
Uh,
on
that's
Discord.
my Halloween name. I usually go by Dumpster Daddy or Dumpy for shorts.
Ah, I see. Well, do you
That's my
have?
Halloween name. It's come to Daddy from Hellraiser. That's the only thing I could think of. I've used this name 3 years in a row because I can't think of a better one.
I kind of like Dumpster Daddy. I don't know why. It sort of appeals to me.
Yeah,
Oh,
it comes from a different crappy horror movie, Wish Upon. I know Red Fire Media did a video about it about a year ago.
Wish Upon. What
Wish
a what a treat. It's a newer film, Al, and I guarantee you it completely went under your radar.
It sure did.
It is a delightful piece of trash. I truly love it. I'm glad Red Letter Media did a video on it because I had watched it before and I thought, what a beautiful piece of trash.
Well, we'll start with
They
you, Dumpster
briefly
Daddy. Do you have a question you'd like to ask, or any comment you'd like to make? Talk is what I'm trying to
I've
say.
just been working in this chat, and it's like, should I stay here? Okay. You mentioned in your video that a comic drape helped you out. They just give you words of encouragement or anything else.
Yeah, also gave me some advice, which was I thought very, just the fact that Drake reached out, and was very kind and very supportive and and empathetic of my situation. That's a kindness I will probably never be able to repay. And so a good guy right there.
Okay.
I'm hoping that if something like this happens in the future to someone else, I will definitely, and I'm made aware of it, I will definitely take that action, because it's ridiculous how comfort's not the right word, but it can be. It helps you. It just helps you deal with that situation, realizing that there are people who are on your side, and people that you aren't even
alone.
that you're not even aware of. That, I think that's my point, is I'm not even aware that there are people on my side, and then they pop out of the woodwork and they go, yeah, hey dude, I get it, and maybe here's a little advice to help you with your situation.
Okay, that's nice. I asked because not to sound like an asshole, but I'm not the biggest fan of his. But then after you told me that, I realized, a lot of the things I have grievances about him are things he said almost 5 years ago. What feels like.
Yeah, and I mean,
So
I'm sure there's
maybe
people who feel the same way about my content too. They'll be like, they completely disagree with my opinion or my analysis, and that's fair. Um, but I mean, if you're gonna come in here and shit talk, Comic Drake, I'm probably gonna shut you down. But
yeah, I'm actually just trying to say that it's actually making me, I don't know, maybe reconsider his content. I don't know. Because like I said, the things I have grievances of him were from 5 or so years ago. And it's the comic space was different back then, and
it sure
was different back
was.
then.
Yeah, I mean, that's around the time I started too, and it looked completely different.
Yeah, and it's I wasn't a fan of it, and he made me, as I felt like he was defending the current State of Comics, and I didn't like that. But I don't know.
What
Yeah.
what what what
Like,
kind
I've
of?
mellowed out.
I'm not entirely sure what he was defending, if anything.
This, and again, I don't know. It was like but yeah, it was something that's like, I don't know. It seems kind of antiquated now.
Hmm. Your point being is you're reevaluating how you feel about him.
Yes.
Gotcha. Greg, let's move on to Greg. How you doing tonight, Greg?
I'm doing really well.
I should ask, do
had
you
to-
do you feel like do you feel comfortable? I should ask this to everyone. Do you feel comfortable talking in chat, knowing that this is being broadcast to a bunch of people that you don't know?
I'm totally fine with it.
Cool. Well, then, how you doing
yeah,
tonight?
I
Let's
had
start with that.
I'm doing pretty good. I'm actually making sure that okay, the microphone's on. All right, cool. Because my machine was just like, we need to reset in 5 minutes, and I was like, shoot, let me just go ahead and do that now. So popped out, and now I'm back. I'm doing good. I'm glad you're getting a chance to have this little check-in chat. I didn't really have any particular questions. I was just sort of listening to
That's cool.
the discussion, which is, as always, erudite and informed, which is one of the reasons I love your videos.
Oh,
They are both
thank you. That's
erudite
very.
and informed and incredibly well done. Maddeningly so, actually. But
You're too
that's
kind.
another
You're far too kind.
discussion.
Thank
But I
you
was
very
listening to like
much.
the Astro City chat. You're welcome. I was listening to like the Astro City chat, and being a big fan of that series as well. It's always nice to hear people.
Do you have
people
a
talking about
favorite
it.
volume that you would recommend to anyone?
I mean, I would definitely
Or storyline, I
blanket
should say.
blanket recommendation. Really for the whole series.
Mhm.
Certainly the first volume, those first 6 issues,
Mhm.
are pretty rock solid in giving you takes on like classic superhero tropes that people, I mean, maybe now they'd expect it a little more, but certainly when it came out, it was very much like, oh, you can do other things with
Mhm.
with your real superhero tropes and things. My favorite story is actually the 1/2 issue, The Nearness of You, um, with the guy who dreams of a wife that he
All
has,
right. Yes.
right?
Mhm.
And it's 16 pages, and it encompasses a like essentially like it's a crisis aftermath
Mhm. Yes.
story,
Very much so.
and in those 16 pages, anytime anybody says for any of these, not intercompany, or I guess intercompany crossovers or whatever, it's like, well, we have to give the big blockbuster action. There's no space for the character moments.
Mhm.
And I was like, you can't squirrel away like 16 pages or so, because Busick and Anderson in 16 pages gave us both the big blockbuster epic and the,
They sure did.
emotional pulling at your heart sort of beats. Like 16 pages, man. That's all it took for them. Why can't you just
And I
don't
would say
copy
about the
exactly what they did, but like yeah.
I would say about the
Go
first
ahead.
volume, it also, in addition to what you said, it provides a really good foundation for what the entire series is like. Like, if you don't like that first volume, you're probably not going to like the rest of the series. Um, but if you enjoy that first volume, then the rest of the series you're probably going to like. It has its ups and downs, of course. Everyone has their different tastes, and some arcs work better
Yeah.
than others.
Yeah. Do you I guess this is a question for, anybody that's read it. I personally adore Brent Anderson's art. Do you think it would have been, I don't want to say more successful, but do you think having a consistent artist through so many different types of tropes. Do you think that helped the story or helped the series, or
I,
maybe?
I completely agree that I think having one consistent artist, and I think Brent Anderson does a pretty good job too, but having one consistent artist for, I mean, 15, maybe even 20 years, I think, because I don't think he's doing it anymore. I think that definitely helped the series. Definitely. And he was a good artist. He wasn't, I don't think he was outstanding, but he wasn't flashy. The story was the flash. Uh, and he just helped he helped carry the story. I'll put it that way. Does that make
There's some
sense?
there's something I
Mm.
believe that there are great artists who, like, again, are flashy. There's other
Hmm.
artists that give their B game, and they're like good movie soundtracks. You don't notice them,
Yeah.
but if they're not there, you immediately feel their difference.
Yes.
And
I'd
I
agree
think
with that.
he is way up there as far as just like his art is like a movie soundtrack.
That's a very good way of putting it.
Mm. Mm.
All right. Have I missed anyone else in Discord?
There was
here?
a question I actually saw on there that I think I would love to actually hear an
Sure.
answer
Go
for.
ahead. Go ahead. Ask.
ALC asked, "Hey, fan of the channel, you cover some of the very best stuff. Which form do you use now to do your reading? Single issues, trades, or digital?"
Everything is digital. And that's a practical reason for me because it just makes it easier for me to make videos. I don't have to scan anything. I've already got a digital copy. I just pull images out of it. As for it's a mix between single issues and trades, due to the fact that I'm not like a Wednesday warrior anymore. I usually tend to get trades, and because a lot of my reading is specifically for videos. So so it's easy, and I usually don't do a lot of single issue stuffs. This past week being the exception, because I think it's only fair to do, a complete arc. That way you can review it properly, in my opinion. So I'm lean more towards trades and always towards digital.
And can I riff on that question?
Mm-hmm.
When would you like? Do you think that? Because I've heard the argument before, and this is such a it has been said and by who, and it's not a great place to start from that, but that at a certain point single issue stories stopped happening and you started having full arcs as comics and lost that like feeling of buying a comic and getting a full story out of it or getting multiple stories or at as Greg was saying earlier with like 16 pages of here's a full complete fantastic story in 16 pages. um do you think that had like do you agree with that assessment that that change has happened? When do you think that change happened? And then I think like more interesting of all those things is, do you think that's a good change?
I would say yes, the change has happened. Definitely. I started noticing it, I want to say, probably around the beginning of the Marvel event stuff. So around 2004 is when it seemed like a 6-issue arc was pretty much standard for everyone. It was shortly thereafter, after like the end of the Avengers, going into House of M and all that jazz, where everything seemed to be based around a 6-issue arc. And I could see how for practical reasons why that works, especially when you sit down, plot, and structure. 6 issues seems kind of ideal. Now, is it for the best? No. And here's my reason why. Some stories don't need 6 issues, but they're padded out into 6 issues because that conveniently fills out a trade paperback to a certain amount of pages. And I think that is the issue with the 6-issue arc. there are some stories that only need 2. And I think there's also an art to being able to tell, as Greg mentioned, a 16-page story. Not a lot of people do that. But then again, I also think readers want something more epic, something longer. And I think that feeds into the whole 6-issue arc as well. Because then you can have something epic easily for a writer who's cranking out, 2 or 3 titles a month. You can have an epic story over 6 issues, as opposed to trying to put in the hard work and cramming it into 1 or 2. Because I remember back in the day, miniseries used to be, or the longest any story ever was like 3, maybe 4 issues. Like if you look back in the 80s, most miniseries were 3 or 4 issues. It's very rare to get like more above that. And I think that's almost a lost part of the medium, is someone trying to write stories that are just as epic as a 6-issue arc, but within half the space. I think I talked a lot about that question. Did that answer do you think that answered the question?
I do. I have several trailing questions after that, but I'll let you. Do you want me to see if I can find another good question from the chat?
Well, I see Michael is in. If you feel like chatting, I'll say hello to you. And do you have anything you want to say? If not, that's cool. I'm guessing no, because I hear nothing.
I see Michael put a message inside the.
I wasn't. Thank you. I wasn't looking at the chat.
This is me using both my screens. Do City of Heroes in one and do looking at the chats in the other screen. Maybe you're onto something about having two screens. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I've got like 1,000 applications open right now, so I can kind of keep track of everything. All right. Well, then
I have an idea, sort of connected to that, to maybe that question that I sort of wanted to throw out.
Sure, go ahead.
Thought or whatever discussion. So we use the term graphic novel.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think things would have? Do you think things would have changed if the term that we landed on was graphic album rather than graphic novel?
I don't think the term really matters. We could have called them, 100-page poopies, and it doesn't. The term doesn't matter.
The reason I mention that is just when you have a novel, then it's all supposed to be like one story.
It is.
Like if you have 120 pages of something, then whatever is in those 120 pages have to be all part of one thing.
Mm-hmm.
If it's album, which is what they use obviously more prominently over in Europe and everything, when we get an album of somebody's, we don't expect it all to be like one song. Like it can be a collection of,
for sure,
almost like an anthology. So I think maybe subconsciously, whatever, the use of novel versus album has helped steer things more towards that book having to be one thing, as opposed to more of like an anthology, or you could have so like that, going back to Astro City, that first, okay, so it's got family album in the title, so that sort of skews things a little. But if they were like, hey, so and so's run on, like, Spider-Man, those first 6 issues, we'll put those into a collection. They don't have. There's no real reason they have to all be like one story to be like the opening arc. It could just be, 6 issues, and this is, a collection.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like the continued use of graphic novel, when it's really just
it's just a collection. Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah, and you're you could go around in circles about this topic for like literally hours. I think graphic novel is just fine, even though I prefer trade paperback, because that is the term it started out as. And graphic novel was really specific, and it goes to what you were saying. Novel implies that there's a beginning, middle, and end. which there is in current graphic novels for that particular arc, but there isn't a beginning, middle, and end for an overall story. So it's
Right.
not quite correct. But in North America, it makes sense to call them novels as opposed to albums. It also gives them a little more legitimacy. If we were to call them albums here, I don't know. It makes me think of Dark Side of the Moon instantly rather than like Slaughterhouse-Five. And you want people to associate it with like literature as opposed to pop culture, which is what music would be more towards. I mean, yes, it's artistic, but most people view it as just part of pop culture, whereas a novel is literature.
I agree with that. And I think as I have accidentally made myself known, I feel like in the Discord, for being the person who always talks about young adult comics, I think young adult comics being like called graphic novels almost exclusively, to the point where when I was working in the library, it was something that I consistently saw. Graphic novels was a term used for young adult more than I saw it for any adult comic. Like it was adult comic and YA graphic novels. And I think the word novel right there is really doing a lot of heavy lifting as far as making that seem like this is not comics in the sense of funny pages. This is
Yeah.
this is actual art, and this is a thing that can help like grow the brain
Yeah.
power in a way that a lot of people think of.
That's
with novels.
another important distinction is defining it from, the funny pages, like the Garfields and the Heathcliffs, and saying it's not that, it's something more serious than that. I think that's a very fair distinction.
Mhm.
But you're right. I do recall too in a past life that young adult stuff was referred to as graphic novels, and then there was adult. I forget the exact term. What did you say it was?
I was always called adult comic books.
Adult comic books. Yes, thank you. It was just that simple. And then there's, especially in libraries, it's now just a generic graphic novel. Doesn't matter what genre or who it's aimed at.
Yeah.
I might have direct experience with that.
Perchance you do.
Perchance. And I will acknowledge, hi Michael again. I used to have the push to talk issue too all the time, and now I just leave my mic wide open. I don't care if you can hear cars zipping by on the street.
Well, that's what CRISPR is for.
Yeah. Or you just get to hear my lovely room echo and all the noise outside on the street. You can tell I don't live in a mansion. I'm a normal person just like you.
You're just another nerd behind a microphone.
I am. That's all I am. That's all I am. And who else do we have here? We have S. S. Dot, dot, dot. Hello, S. Dot, dot, dot. I say that very dramatically. And to amuse myself.
How's it going?
Goes fine. How about you?
Well, thank you. Wrestling my cat away from the microphone, so hopefully you don't hear any of that.
Is it the cat that's currently in your profile picture?
Yes.
No, it's her sister.
Well, then she's not welcome.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to ban her.
Yeah, I'm banning her immediately. What's her username? Pulls up my mod window. I'm kidding.
Speedy the First.
Speedy.
I should note, by the way, if you did not know Alan, whenever someone's name shows up as S and then dot dot dot, it is a thing that you can click in Discord's thing whenever someone shows up on stream. The screen name will not show up with it.
I got it. There we go. Truncated. I'm disabling it. It's Speedy the First. There we go. Thank you, Ruby.
If you're okay with having your name, technically speaking, it's not like I know you're not sharing your screen right now.
No.
No. So it's not technically being broadcast. But if you're okay with your name being said out loud as it was,
Yeah, no, that's
thank
fine.
you for joining.
Yes, thank you for joining. Did you have anything you want to ask or comment?
Yeah, actually. I thought that discussion about what we call comics nowadays, whether that's graphic novels or graphic albums or comics or funny pages, really has to do with how we divide low and high art and the way that society kind of values high and low art.
Let me pause you right there. Do you think there is low and high art?
No, I reject that distinction.
Excellent. Okay, great. Continue. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No. So I guess it really has to do with how society devalues art that might be aimed towards children, or that various minorities or marginalized groups find their voices in. And I don't know. I think that's something I'm not a big fan of. I like what Alan Moore said whenever he was asked how he felt about the term graphic novel, and it was just like, it's a comic book. Why should I be embarrassed about reading comics or writing comics? It's an art form. It's a medium, just like anything else.
There's that great comedy bit, like the comedy routine from Robin Williams, where he says, "Graphic novels? You mean like pornography?" And I constantly think of that because I love, because obviously Robin Williams has always been a huge nerd and loved comics the whole time. I do love hearing people have that kind of sentiment of like, this is not, we don't have to have some high, falutin term for it. We just need to have better respect for it.
I think that's a good way of putting it. More respect for it. And I think also too, people who read comics not being ashamed of it. Does that make sense? Because I know I've witnessed that a lot, where people discuss comics and then they just kind of at the end, they kind of sort of say, yeah, but it's just a comic book. It doesn't really matter. And just feeling bad about enjoying this particular medium. I think that's one of the messages I've always hammered home is there's ridiculous stories in this medium, but it's not a ridiculous medium. It's worth its place in pop culture.
I mean, there's no real ridiculous mediums. I have seen puppet shows that have brought me to tears. I think we've all watched a good Muppet movie.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that's a fun question. That's completely apropos. What's your favorite Muppet movie?
Oh, the first one, of course.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Maybe is it Treasure Island? Muppet Treasure Island?
Yes, Treasure Island one is
that one was kind of fun. It just had
Curry, so.
and it had one of my favorite lines whatsoever. Light the lamp, not the rat. Light the lamp, not the rat. Just cracks me up even to this day. It's so stupid. I love it.
Well, I think that's what Muppets does so very well, and I think that's also like what, like, in quotes, silly art can do really well, is that it can drop the pretensions and just be like so honest about like let's make the most base humor joke we can, and it's as simple as you can get it, and it still tickles that bone.
It sure does.
I like the great Muppet Caper.
Pardon me?
Thank you for saying Muppet Caper. I love that movie a lot myself. That's the one I thought Al was gonna say.
Muppet Caper, really?
Yeah. Oh, it seems like your kind of thing. Maybe I'm wrong on that one.
To be honest, I don't think I've seen it.
Maybe a movie night.
Maybe.
I grew up on Muppets Take Manhattan, so I have a soft spot for that.
Yeah.
But the Muppets Christmas Carol is now a Christmas staple at my house.
It's the best version of the Christmas Carol. Genuinely the best version of the Christmas Carol.
Yeah. Some of Michael Caine's best work. He is so good in
That-
that movie. And the
That's a
movie's
fair
great, but he
observation.
is-
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. I love hearing him talk about it, like in interviews and stuff, and how much he loved working on it, and how much he enjoyed it and everything. It's just, it's so good. It's
Can you think of
so-
anyone that disliked working with the Muppets?
All the cast of SNL.
Were those actual
Like-
Muppets, or were those just their
Yeah,
version
those
of
were
the
actual-
Muppets?
No, they were the actual like
Really?
Muppets.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Um,
I thought that was just their version of it.
No, that was Jim Henson Company working on SNL at the time, and everyone hated, like everyone at SNL thought they were way better. I think it was either Bill Murray or it was Chevy Chase, who said, "I don't work with felt," and just like refused to be anywhere near the studio whenever they were there. Like they hated everything that Jim Henson did and all that happened, and they thought they were so above it. And
Ah.
it's I
That's
feel
so
the same way
elitist.
about. No, seriously, because I feel the same way about Muppets that I feel about Nardwar. Anyone who thinks that they're too good for the Muppets or Nardwar, I no longer have respect for you.
Nardwar. You don't hear that often. Well, you do in
Yeah.
Canada because he's
I was
Canadian.
about to say, I knew you would.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Is it-
have no idea what that is, but
Nardwar, the human serviette. Look it up.
He is perhaps the greatest music journalist of all times.
Mm-hmm. And hated. So very hated by so many.
And I don't understand it because like he's hip hop royalty. Like everyone in hip hop loves him so much.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's so well that's how I figured because I'm a big hip hop head and I figured out like who Nardwar was by watching like interviews with a lot of people, and his interviews with people in hip hop they're like it's very real, recognize real is what it comes
Mhm.
down to,
Mhm.
and they recognize that this guy genuinely cares about his craft and he's a little goofy, but like Snoop Dogg loves him, Lil Uzi loves him. Kendrick Lamar is terrified to do another interview with him because he doesn't want any more information coming in light. I love this. I
Well,
love
it's
it so
great to
much.
see someone that committed to his craft. I mean, I'm not even sure if he's playing a character or if that really is just him.
It's so hard, right?
It
Because,
is.
like,
It's a hard call. It's like
so sincere.
yeah. There's another Nathan. Oh gosh.
Fielding?
Yes, Nathan Fielding. Like
Or is it Nathan Fielder? I think it's Fielder.
oh, it's Fielder. It's
Fielder.
Fielder. Yes, it's like Nathan Fielder. He's also right on that border of like. I'm pretty sure in his shows he's putting on a character, but that character is like just a few degrees away from his real self. I think.
Yes.
I love him. Oh my
If
god.
you've not watched The Curse, by the way, you really need to watch The Curse.
You know what? The Curse kind of bored me, but the rehearsal, I will stand by the rehearsal as probably the most important show you should watch if you haven't.
I need you to know I had to stop watching because it triggered a cringe like aspect inside my brain that I wanted to assassinate somebody over that show because I was just
it goes
oh my god so much.
It goes into so many different levels of meta. I thought it was going to explode because of all the meta just dripping out of, and I at the end I wasn't even sure, like, and this is what I appreciate, I wasn't even sure what was real and what he had clearly faked, because I would say I can point to, maybe I shouldn't say that, I don't want to ruin it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but there are some very deceptive elements that I think really stood out to me. But the ending really made me kind of go, am I just cynical or is this great art? And I'm firmly in the camp of it's great art and it's important, and I think everyone should watch it. They should sit down and watch the complete thing.
It was like a mise on a beam of reality show.
Mm-hmm.
You just sink further and further down, and then at the end, like, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Welcome, by the way, Ray.
Oh, hi, thanks.
Yeah, I think that's a very apt description. There's just so many different levels, and I'm usually someone who dislikes things where it's they're intentionally trying to put in levels and make themselves seem very clever. But I think what he did was very organic. It wasn't him being clever. It was him going, well, if I'm going to do this, I need to also do this. And if I do that, I also have to do this. And he has to, I think it's brilliant. Whereas I have the opposite.
It's like he just kept fighting what he wanted to indulge himself with.
Kind of.
Like with the son that he had and the way he put him on a very strange path and accelerated his age.
Mm-hmm.
There were just so many weird moments that felt genuine because it really felt like Nathan was tortured about the direction it was going.
I think the consequences, the young boy, I don't want to get specific. Again, I don't want to ruin it for anybody. But the consequences for the young boy that you see, that I feel was very genuine.
Yeah.
So, ugh. But I can see the cringe. I do agree with Ruby. There is a lot of cringe, but
And not like the sense of cringe like that people typically say, like not like the modern sense where it's like I've decided to not like this person anymore. It literally just I watched it happen, and it was like, I think the only other times I felt it is anytime Steve Carell has ever done comedy, and like a few Chevy Chase movies where it's just the characters are doing something that is making me feel so like second or third hand embarrassment so strong that I have to leave the room. I have to physically get up and leave the room.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. And that's it, because it makes you feel so uncomfortable. And so much of the rehearsal is making you feel uncomfortable for the people, not you, like for the people that you're seeing.
No, it was secondhand embarrassment so severe.
Absolutely.
And the fact that it feels like real, like I'm fairly certain it wasn't, but like, oh. Also, the Chevy Chase film was not Memoirs of an Invisible Man, which I'm so glad you brought up. Michael brings up in the Discord chat. I love that movie so very much, and it's actually one of my favorite John Carpenter's. I think it does not get enough appreciation. Also, I love Sam Neill's performance.
It probably gets enough love, I think.
I think Sam Neill always could get more love.
I would agree with that.
True.
So I should say, Ray, did you have a question you wanted to ask? Did I already ask you that? My God, it's been like...
No, I just dropped in. I think I dropped in kind of late, and just to see what was going on.
As long as I'm here, it's never too late. That sounded a lot more clever in my head. See, these are things I take out of my scripts. This is why I need to write scripts, so I don't say stupid shit like that. So that's part of my charm, right, Ruby? Right, Ruby?
Yes, I do.
Right, Ruby?
I agree with it so strongly.
I can tell your conviction was just overwhelming.
I think much like everyone else here, I enjoy seeing Alan from behind the curtain sometimes. I enjoy realizing that even though you are an incredibly like clever person, I enjoy seeing it when you're not 100% there, and I'm like, oh, okay, we're closer to the same level. You're still very much clever than me, but like closer. Closer than I thought.
There's a lot of work that goes into my scripts. This doesn't come natural.
Also, hello there.
Yes. Hello, Sam.
Hi.
Sam, did you have a question for Al?
No, I don't have a question. I just showed up in this chat or something.
For something to do? I love your icon.
Oh yeah, she's my all-time crush. One of my crushes.
And it's so small, but it looks like it's from... Is it from Has Been Hotel?
Yes, it is. It's a profile picture of my waifu, Charlie Morningstar.
Nailed it. See,
oh,
Ruby,
I have drawn pictures of her. You want to see? I have drawn her.
Oh, okay. I was going to say maybe not because this is on stream, but then I realized I don't have Discord on stream. Just the voice.
Okay, I got the picture of Charlie. It's coming. It's in my notebook. Okay, here it comes. There we go. I can draw her from memory. I
She's
draw
so
hearts
cute.
everywhere. And
Good job.
thank you. Okay, turn on the webcam. There we go. I like to draw. I used to draw comics, actually.
Why don't you anymore?
Well, it kind of like hurts my hand and stuff, so I went on to like draw just regular cartoon characters and stuff.
So you don't have a question or a comment for me?
Well,
That's
I
cool.
do have a question.
Oh, go
What's
ahead.
this server about?
I'm sorry, say that again.
So, can you tell me more about this server?
This, like the Strange Brain Parts server?
Yes, please.
I mean, what's confusing about it? You just come in and, you know, if you want to talk comics, there's
Yeah.
a couple hundred people you can talk comics about. Or if you want to
So
message me directly, you have that access as well.
Yeah. Anyway, what my real question is, what are your favorite type of comics?
Good ones.
Well, I mean that's kind of a nail on the head right there.
I mean, I kind of said it earlier. I don't have a specific genre or anything. As long as the story's great, the art can be terrible by most people's standards. As long as it's functional, has a great story, that's all I care about.
I love stories too. Amazing stories.
Well, what would qualify as bad art? I mean, something like Long Shot Comics by Shane Simmons, I think, is great art in its own way.
I would say well, when we're talking about comic book art, very specifically comic book art, not just bad art in general. Bad comic book art doesn't help the story. It's like I know there's a lot of people who love early Image, but those are just pretty pictures that do nothing to advance the story. They're barely coherent. If there weren't words on the page, you wouldn't know what was happening. And bad art, that is bad art. That doesn't help. Like it's
For some reason that
I was just my end point was it's 50% of the story. And if 50% of the story is just pretty pictures, that's bad art.
Yeah, for some reason that makes me think of Judgment Day, that miniseries by Alan Moore. And that's very typical Liefeld Image art. But because it's Moore and he has such a strong guiding hand, it didn't feel as bad as it would have otherwise visually. I mean, they still had all the gritted teeth, all those extra lines.
Mm-hmm.
It still felt kind of, Liefeldian. But because it was a Moore story, it was raised from bad to
let's be honest.
feasibly mediocre.
I would say the majority of Moore's image work, he probably wrote while he was on the toilet on a Saturday morning. He didn't, there probably wasn't a lot of direction in his scripts, and he probably didn't care as long as the checks cleared.
If I actually riff on that question a little bit, or at least part of that, I'm curious. Do you think Rob Liefeld deserves the sort of reputation that he has earned among comic book fans? Do you think that his art is as bad as people say that it is?
I think it's odd because it seems like there's two Rob Liefelds. There's one that produces competent artwork, and another Rob Liefeld. And,
oh God.
And there's
Isn't
because
he the guy I'm sorry.
Yeah. And there's another that just can't draw worth a crap. And
well, there's so many famous examples that come up, like the pointy toes, that famous Captain America chest, that it's easy to point at.
But
that gives me nightmares.
He's not incompetent, though. That's my point. Is
That's true.
He has the ability. He just doesn't give a shit. No, at least not anymore.
How much of that is him thinking that he can just kind of like
phone it in?
I don't think every Jack Kirby art is or every page that Jack Kirby created was great. I think a lot of Jack Kirby's work is I think a lot of it's competent, some of it's fantastic, and then some of it's less so. And
a lot of it is functional, like it just tells the story. Yeah.
And I think like Rob Liefeld, like how much did Rob look at? Because I think he's definitely inspired by Kirby. I think like that's one of the biggest inspirations I can imagine for Liefeld.
Probably.
Oh yeah, Prophet.
How much did he think that he could just get away with just drawing what he felt rather than learning or honing his craft? Or how much was his version of honing his craft, and it was just, not everyone can be, not everyone's going to be Jack Kirby, and it's insane to think that anyone could be like Jack Kirby just on their own laurels.
I
think you're
don't
talking
know.
about.
I think that kind of the answer to that means I have to read into Mr. Liefeld's mind, and I don't think I can do that. All I can just judge by the work that I've seen, and I've seen some competent work. I wouldn't say great work, but competent work where he showed potential, and I think he's just more concerned with cranking the workout rather than cranking quality workout.
I think he found his visual idiom and just ran with it. I mean, what worked, it sold. He had a fan base, so he just became. It's almost like a Flanderizing of a visual style. I'd say the same would apply to McFarlane too.
Yeah,
Has McFarlane drawn anything recently? Like, and by recently I mean like the last 20 years.
I know he's done special issues of Spawn, and I know he's done
okay.
covers consistently. But like, I wouldn't say he's drawn any more than is necessary. And I always like, I think you've said this before, Al, and you can tell me no, you didn't if you don't want to.
if I want complete denial, yeah, okay.
Yeah. But like, I think that McFarlane drew as a means to an end rather than that he drew because he genuinely like that was a passion thing that he wanted to do. I think once he got to a point he didn't need to draw, he didn't want to.
Yeah. I'll own that I said that probably in some form. And I agree with that. I think it's just a means to an end, just as you said, rather than he had any artistic intention. I don't see any artistic. He just wanted things to look cool. And he did that. I will say,
I think he made things look cool. I think he at least had intention with Spider-Man, because I think he did revolutionize the way Spider-Man looked in a way that I think is...
Yeah, but he was just trying to keep himself interested, really. I mean...
Fair.
We're talking McFarlane now, not Liefeld?
Yeah. Liefeld, Liefeld we've passed on.
Okay.
I think that is a fair thing to question, though, is do you think that McFarlane should deserve more of the kind of reputation that Liefeld has?
That's a good question. That really is.
Because I constantly think about, like, because I do think Liefeld is overhated, if I'm being entirely honest. But I also like, I'm not gonna go out there and like champion for him at the same time, where it's like, he overrated, yes, but am I really gonna try and say, oh no, y'all are wrong about? But like, I do think to myself, is Liefeld comparable enough to McFarlane?
You know what? I'm gonna have to say no, because I think even on his worst day, McFarlane was competent. Whereas, Liefeld on his worst day, he looked like a train wreck, or his artwork looked like a train wreck, not him personally. But I can't think of any specific images from McFarlane that looked like he did it in like 3 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, can you think of any examples? Can anyone think of some terrible artwork examples?
I think for me, if I'm being really, really mean, I don't know how much I think the very meme worthy like the Captain America chest one, where I think that one's like egregious in a particular way.
Mm-hmm.
But I also like
Mhm.
I didn't read Liefeld's Captain America run. Like it's or at least not until after that became a meme.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not like something that I recognize as like, oh, this is really bad art, and I recognize that to myself. And that's what I'd have to do to look at McFarlane's work. I would have to like be analyzing all of his stuff and really looking at it. And I think when I look at Rob Liefeld art that's not the highly memed versions of his
Mhm.
art, I think I see a lot of McFarlane, if I'm being so honest. But I also think maybe it just doesn't, like, maybe that image era, that style, what they were doing doesn't super appeal to me. Or when it does, like, I like Rob Liefeld's Cable stuff. I think is goofy looking sometimes, but I think is more or less fine. And I like Cable quite a bunch. And I
Well,
think
I think that
McFarlane.
that whole pile of people were influencing one another. So it wouldn't shock me to see influences from, McFarlane, Lee, Silvestri. They're all kind of commingled together because they're all doing somewhat similar work, very busy artwork.
Well, I remember my first exposure to Liefeld was Infinity Incorporated. And he seemed really ambitious at the time. I think because he was bored, because he was doing all these weird page designs and
Mhm.
like use of logos and so on. And I think that was when I stopped paying attention, though, because next thing I knew, he was doing Spider-Man, and I was reading Spider-Man at the time. But it showed a different sensibility from standard comic storytelling at the time. And I wonder if it pointed to a possible future for him that he didn't explore.
I've always looked at the Infinity Ink stuff as his look at me artwork.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like he was doing maybe he was partially bored, but I think he was also trying to get attention by doing these really strange panel arrangements and stuff. And maybe he was just playing too. I don't know. I have to acknowledge that in the chat we have Grendel Prime. Now, Grendel Prime, in my mind, you have a lot to live up to. So whatever you say, whatever question you ask, it better live up to the name. That's a lot of pressure, I realize.
It is.
Hello there.
Hello. Hello. I'm just kidding, of course, please.
Well, if I had one question, I guess it'd be, do you think if Seduction of the Innocents and like the mass hysteria with comic books in the 50s didn't happen, do you think that the landscape of comics in America would have been very different?
I mean, I think the answer is pretty obvious. Yes. It might even be far more socially acceptable. Perhaps it would have gone along the lines of the way manga is perceived in its home countries. Absolutely.
At the very least, EC would have been driven out of business by the end.
For sure. EC and I think roughly another dozen companies.
Yeah.
EC is just the most popular example, but many others, completely went out of business within, I think, the first 2 years. I think the total I came up with was 12 went out of business in the first 2 years.
Yes.
Do you think that superheroes would have been as big culturally had the Comics Code Authority not been established?
It was already on the way out, actually, to some degree.
See, what I'm considering is, within that question is, would Kirby and Lee done Fantastic Four if do you see where I'm going with this? Like,
Well, even if
there's a lot of factors. Like,
Fantastic Four have been superheroes.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's a good way of putting it. Would the Fantastic Four have been superheroes as opposed to, say, adventurers like Challengers of the Unknown? So superheroes were definitely on the way out. Well, they were actually by
Crime comics were on the way up in the 50s.
I mean, the only popular ones were Captain Marvel and Superman.
Well, not even
And-
by the 50s. Captain Marvel was on the way out at that point.
True, because sales were down. That's why they discontinued, and the lawsuit with DC wasn't worth it at that point.
Superman sales were down too, I believe.
So I think maybe Seduction of the Innocent might have saved superheroes because it kicked out, crime and horror, which were definitely huge at the time. So that cut down a lot of their competition. That's a very good question. There's a lot to consider.
Well, that is true, but there are some certain superheroes like Batman, who is kind of like, he's a superhero, but he's also like crime focused. He was like very bad during the early Silver Age.
I think that by the time of the Silver Age, Batman wasn't very crime focused. Like he had long since, like Robin was his sidekick, and they were just, if they were crime focused, they were very much a arm of the police in many ways. But I feel like a lot of those stories that you get in the 1950s are stuff where like zebra suit Batman or rainbow costume Batman, where it's just
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Or the gimmick. I guess you could call it like the gimmick era of Batman.
The toyetic era.
You do have in like the latter half of the 50s, you do have, of course, the Julie Schwartz, reinvention of the Flash, the Atom, and Green Lantern with more like obviously science fiction bend to them. So it would be interesting to see if that would have caught on as well as it did in a market that had a stronger crime comic portion and horror and all of the stuff that the Comics Code kind of tamped down on.
My instinct is that it wouldn't. It might have been popular, but not to the level of popularity it eventually achieved. Definitely channels like mine would be discussing a wider variety of comics nowadays if there was no Seduction of the Innocent in the past.
Are you sure you wouldn't be talking about the Dark Fife returns?
Ruby, why do you do this to me?
I thought you would find that fun and you would listen to that and you would go, oh, what a fun little joke you've done.
Well, folks, I think I should probably wrap up pretty quickly. It's almost been 2 hours, and as you can see, things are getting even darker in my apartment, even though I have a light shining in my general area.
Can I request before we go, can we do some lightning rounds of some of the questions I've seen inside the
absolutely.
In the chat?
If you've picked up on some questions I should probably go for, please.
I did see one person earlier ask about manga, and we know some of the things you've liked. I know we've spoken about a few of the things, but I wouldn't mind hearing a few other questions on that.
You mean what
do
I like?
Yeah, like what manga do you like, or ones that you might recommend?
Claymore is one. That's always the first one on my brain. Uzumaki, of course. I shouldn't say of course. But that is just astounding work. That is so unique that I don't even have words for it. Goodnight Pun Pun. Even though I haven't finished it all, I really think it's so absurdly lovely in a dark way.
I have a recommendation for you if you liked Pyun Pyun in particular. I super think if you've not read Akunohana, I think you would like Akunohana a lot. Because they're very, I think they're lovely in a dark way, I think is a great way to describe them.
All right, there we go. Now another question, if you have another lightning round one.
I did see someone actually ask here if they had any plans on covering any EC horror comics, and I guess we sort of did that just now. But do you have any specific plans for covering like EC horror comics or anything else like that?
I think everyone has plumbed the depth of that particular topic. Like even just EC in general, I don't think I have anything to add to the subject, other than maybe doing like a retrospective, as in, these were kind of cool. I personally, just thinking about it right now, and I've thought about it from time to time, I can't really think of anything I have to say about it that hasn't already been said. But maybe 2 weeks from now, I'll change my mind and I'll be like, yes.
Michael Rickard inside here asked two questions. And Eltingville Club comics. Have you read any of those or seen the failed pilot for Adult Swim?
Yes to both. I've seen the failed pilot. I don't know why it's a failed pilot. I guess it was just too nasty for them to go, and which is odd for Adult Swim. The comic is also pretty great because it's really a complete story about at least 3 characters that have that don't change whatsoever through. I'm not sure what the time frame is. I want to say like a decade. Might be shorter than that.
I think it suffered from the same problem as Amazing Screw-On Head. I think it was so good, but it had such a like. There's no way that you could contain how good that pilot was over an entire like next more of anything else. Like I think like it was never going to be better than that.
I see. I also see another Michael question. Besides Curse, have you watched any other horror films? Yeah, I've watched plenty. I really like. Oh my God! Why did his name not Jordan Peterson? Oh my God!
Jordan Peele?
Yes, thank you, Jordan Peele. I love his movies. But I don't think I'm alone in that. Let's see what else. I did binge Paranormal Activity recently, just because I didn't want to think, and I just find that kind of amusing. I find it amusing that they managed to piece together an actual movie out of some really cheaply produced footage. Let's see, what other horror movies? The Shining, of course, because it's a classic. That's it.
Are you sure that's a horror movie? That feels more like a psychological thriller to me.
No, it's definitely
intentionally.
Yeah. Oh, and of course, Alien. Alien is one of the best horror movies ever made. Was there any other questions I might have missed? And I want to, for those that are in the YouTube chat, I'm sorry I've been ignoring you. I truly do apologize. I could. There's only so much. There's only so much multitasking this silly narrator can do.
Yeah, someone had asked if you're ever going to do Mr. Natural or Eddie Current.
Eddie Current for sure. Mr. Natural, maybe not so much. I'm probably not going to cover a lot of Robert Crumb.
The greatest Freudian slip.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm probably not going to cover much Robert Crumb. There's some aspects of his work that I personally don't like. And they're hard.
I think
let's put it this way. I spent a lot of time talking around Dave Simmons' Cerebus. I don't want to do the same with Robert Crumb.
I think there's a lot that can be done from his weirdo era, not counting the very last issue.
And and Crumb has fans like Kirby fans. You say anything even remotely critical, and your comments section just explodes. It's insane.
That's even more reason to do it. Then that gets you the engagement.
There's good engagement and bad engagement.
But it's all like, engagement to the YouTube dollars algorithm.
True. That is very true. But, I don't want to go out of my way to be it's like me doing like 4 Mark Miller videos. Like, what's the point? I've done one. I don't need to do any more. And that's I kind of feel the same way about Crumb. I've kind of talked around his work every now and again. I don't think I need to do a dedicated video. and talk about what I find objectionable about what he's
I-
done. While he's done some great stuff as well, there's also, it's like talking about Will Eisner too. You look at the spirit and, oh my goodness, or the one topic I've always wanted to do, which is the Monster Society of Evil, Captain Marvel. But oh my goodness, there are some pretty terrible.
You would be demonetized.
Well, I wouldn't be able to show the images, that's for sure,
Yeah.
without being instantly demonetized in age. Well, demonetized I can always deal with. It's the age restricted that kills a video. But yeah, I would instantly, no matter what disclaimer I put up and how many times I said, look, I'm not endorsing this work, but I have to show it to you to give you more context for the story. That I can genuinely say that the script for that, it's been 2 years in the making of me trying to find a way to do it so that I could do it on YouTube. I might just have to end up doing it as a Patreon only type of thing, because I've not found it possible to discuss it without getting into the obviously objectionable elements. Because I don't want to be that guy that just goes, yeah, there's some racism, and just kind of play it off. No, there's a lot of disgusting stereotypes, and I think if you're going to discuss a work like that, which is a great piece of work, but there's a huge, big capital letters "but" that goes in that sentence, but it's got some pretty gross elements, and I don't want to. I think it's terrible to miss out on those gross elements and just sort of try to elevate, because what you end up doing is you're elevating a story that has some of those really uncomfortable elements, and someone might read that story, unlikely but possible, and kind of go, why didn't he mention this is pretty gross, this is pretty insulting to me personally.
No, I agree with that. I do have one other question I saw in here that I really liked. I will say also, a few of these questions do already have immediate answers. Someone asked for your take on the Grant Morrison Howard Chaykin feud, and you did a YouTube short on that that I highly recommend that person look up. It is a fantastic little short. And I did see another person ask about your feelings on Alan Moore in the ABC days, and if you've not watched Al's video on Promethea, it is a fantastic video.
Oh, thank you, Ruby.
And well, I'm always gonna be like your number 82nd fan, so like I'm definitely like gonna talk that up.
I think you're a little higher than that.
Maybe.
But to sort of give the short answer to the ABC one, not only Promethea, but I have read almost the entire line too. I just haven't done a dedicated video to it yet.
I would love to see your review of Big Ten. Absolutely, that would be fantastic.
Top 10, but
or
yes.
Top 10. Sorry, top.
Yeah, I that is, and this is going to hurt you. That's one script I lost. Was to my top 10 script.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. And it would have been, it probably would have shown up within the next month or so, but now I have to start again from scratch. Yeah.
But the one I saw that I think is really interesting, because I'd like to hear your take on this one, Al, is why do you think there is such a divide between the manga fan base and the Western comics fan base? Is it all marketing, or is there something deeper there?
Why is there such a divide? Okay, this is a multi-part answer. I think it's a little bit generational in the sense that, okay, I think we can all agree manga generally appeals to a younger audience. Is my perception on that kind of correct?
I would say it's absolutely true as far what comic books, like what manga comes out here is largely, or the ones that become very popular, are largely stuff that shows up in Shonen Jump, which is definitely YA books.
I guess what the point I was trying to make there, I don't want to go on too long about it, is there's sort of a generational divide, whereas superhero or Western comics are seen as superhero comics, and manga is seen as such this diverse mix, and it's true, it is a diverse mix of genres and styles, all these things, which appeals to a younger audience rather than the older audience who enjoy superhero material more. Um, so I just think it's that usual generational clash, just like people who like my generation who love punk music and hated, all that smarmy, sugary, hippie music from like 70 to 76. Ugh, or acid rock or whatever. Pick a genre. That's my point. Is it's just two different generations battling about.
And I can vouch for that anecdotally. I mean, my daughter's in high school. She reads a lot of manga. Sometimes she'll read some of my American comics, but very rarely. And all of her friends read manga, and none of them read American comics. It's just I think part of it also comes up in their social media, in the memes they pick up, in the way they refer to things, in the fact that anime makes it even more available. It's just much more in the fabric of their social life and their cultural life
for sure
than American comics could ever be.
And I think another point in this is fans of comics, they have their pretty extreme opinions sometimes. And I think that's what we're just seeing. We're seeing a fight that doesn't really exist, or at least it shouldn't exist, because we can all, and this is a question I've posed many times and I've never gotten a good answer from anyone, is why do we not consider manga comics? Why do we say manga and Western comics? Manga is comics. Why do we see a separation between the two when they're the same medium? I don't understand the separation.
Kind of like separating between anime and cartoons.
Well,
Yeah.
I find it so fascinating because I feel like, typically speaking, the distinction between anime and cartoons is because anime was, especially in its early heyday, when it was Japanimation or Japanime at a certain point. I feel like a lot of that happened, and I'm talking like late 80s through the 90s when it was a lot on VHS and such. Those were marketed as for a more adult audience because they were bringing over a lot more of the adult themed anime, and it stood as separation from cartoons. Cartoons were for kids, and anime was this thing more for adults that was also from Japan, which had its own special flair to it. Versus, I think it's a almost complete difference when it comes to manga versus comics, because I think, as you're saying with the generation divide, I think comic books have for a long time not really appealed to a YA demographic, and
I agree with that.
manga does.
Yeah.
Like, or at least the ones that typically come over here, a lot of the Shonen Jump, they appeal to that YA teen
But
demographic.
also, wouldn't you say that, knowing a YA audience, they also don't want to feel left out by their peers, because manga is this popular thing. That's undeniable. So they want to be, one of the reasons it's popular is because it's popular. Does that make sense? Like, there's a lot of people who talk about it.
Yes.
So a lot of people are interested in it. I think of like,
It begets itself.
yeah, exactly. It begets itself.
And
I also,
I think that also is why Junji Ito, I think, has become so popular. Like, you go down to I'll say this, I have never been to a Barnes & Noble and seen a display for Robert Crumb, but I have seen a display for Junji Ito at almost every single Barnes & Noble I've ever been to since probably about 2020 or so.
Well, Junji Ito is is newer than Robert Crumb.
well,
That's also true,
I
but
think,
I
I
can
think,
think of that
I hate to
trend.
put it this way, but I think he's also the flavor of the month, in some ways. Like, I mean, believe me, he deserves it. But I've
There
never
is
heard.
released a new book on him every month, it seems.
Yeah, I would say
Prolific.
it wasn't until the last few years, probably 2020, as you're saying, Ruby, that I've heard anyone discuss Junji Ito. I heard zero discussion before that. It's just something that's a topic of discussion that's popped up recently, and everybody's jumping on it. And that's fine, because a great artist, great storyteller, very much deserves it.
I wish to God you knew me back in like 2016 when I started my Junji Ito kick. So then you could have been ahead of the curve. You could have been talking about it before everyone else did. You could go like, I discovered this guy.
I discovered Go Man, so that's enough. I'm done.
I also think there's a bit of a like cultural thing. Like some people just think, cause it's like a stereotype. Like people think like, oh, like a thing in Japan automatically better.
I mean,
And
possibly that. I think a lot of it is also, discovering your favorite underground band. It has that sort of a thing to it. I mean, and of course, we have to also acknowledge that when it comes to manga versus Western comics, there is a portion of fandom that uses that to exploit their argument against Western comics. Am I being too vague, or do you think you get what I'm talking about?
I think I know what you're talking
There's
about.
a portion. There's a portion of comic fandom, and I'm going to do that in air quotes. Comic fandom that have perpetuated this notion, and one should maybe look at with some rationality and skepticism at that position, rather than accept it as something that actually exists.
No, I agree. It's like when I say like thing in Japan, like I'm not dissing on manga. I read manga and American comics. It's just like it's like some people like use it put to it. Some people like some I'm gonna say bluntly shitheads use it to push the agenda of like mainstream American comic being like woke in quotations and stuff.
I don't
And,
think
like,
we need to be
actually-
specific. I think everybody knows what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't think I was being too vague. I don't want to mention any names, mainly
not
because
naming
nor get too specific, because I don't think they need more publicity than they already have.
No, I agree. It's just like
Mhm.
it's like a
What I'm trying to say, I'm sorry, Sebastian.
No, it's okay.
I'm just saying I don't think we need to discuss this further. I'm in my polite Canadian way.
okay. Both are comics. Most people I know read both, so like, why fight?
Mhm. I think most people do too, and they enjoy it for different reasons.
And I
They're-
think anyone who thinks of comics or manga in either side of the direction, who thinks of them as being just one thing or one type of thing, I think they need to explore more outside of the way that they've been typified. Like, I think superheroes are not the only thing Western comics has going
They
for it.
absolutely are
And I
not.
think Shonen Jump is not the only thing that
I agree.
manga has going for it. I think, as was said earlier, and I think someone also brought up Berserk in the chat, but like Claymore, Uzumaki, Pune, there's a wide breadth of things in all of manga, and I think it if we like comic books of any form, we like all of comics, and that includes even like European stuff. Or if I swear to God, like I would read a comic no matter where it was made on the planet. Maybe I might have like reservations about Antarctic comics, and that's only because I don't like the idea of penguins getting that smart. But aside from that, like I would read a comic from anywhere in the world,
for sure.
if it wasn't good, just because I'm curious about even bad comics.
Yeah, I mean, there may be
I
just
that Antarctic press for a second.
yeah. I
for a
thought
second
so
it said it
too.
that way.
Yeah, until she clarified. Yeah, I was thinking. Yeah, I can understand not wanting to read Antarctic comics. Yeah. All right.
You know, the one oh go ahead.
I was going to say, are there any more questions? Can I get out of here? It's been 2 hours. It's getting dark.
I did have
Okay, go ahead.
one quick question.
Please.
So you were talking about single issues versus like multi-issue arcs or something. Do you have a favorite single issue that you've read?
Oh my God. Yes.
Or are you not going to say it? Or I thought that's
I was mugging for the camera. Yes, it's the first one that always comes to mind, so it has to be my favorite, is Animal Man #5, Coyote Gospel.
I knew you were going to say it.
I knew you were waiting for me to say it.
It really was.
It as a mission statement, as a single contained issue, as a story unto itself. Amazing. I don't think Morrison has. I mean, they've done great work, but that single issue, the best they've ever done, and the best single issue anyone's ever done. And Murder, Morphine, and Me. I think everyone should read Murder, Morphine, and Me by Jack Cole. Lovely.
I will say I have the schmaltziest take on my favorite single issue. I cannot recall the issue number, which I think you'll forgive me for. It is from the Death of Superman, or I guess it's the World Without a Superman arc, and it is the single issue with Bibbo, where he's going around the suicide slums in Metropolis, and he's trying to just do his best to be Superman in a world without Superman. And it's so schmaltzy and saccharine, and it's still it hits something so nice in my heart, and it's something I think about constantly.
Oh.
It's like, to me, it's just what a perfect little character piece.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you all for joining me. Thank you for your comments, questions. This was very lovely. I hope I can do this again sooner rather than later. I know Ruby will say things to me in private to motivate me to do it more often than I already do. She's good at that, so you all should praise her for her loveliness.
Well, we don't have to go that far. I don't need the praise.
No, you don't. It feeds her ego. That's
And that thing's already so big.
But with that, I thank you all. Thank you for joining me in this GoFundMe launch, which was the point, even though I never, much like many of my videos, I never promote myself. But if you did contribute, thank you very much. If you can contribute and you want to, link is in the description. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining me. A little
Thank you.
Golf clap hand for you.
And thanks for having us. I discovered your content through your Hickman retrospective, and it's like you're talking about like a mainstream creator, but his non-mainstream works. And it's like that's what I love.
Well, as always,
I want more.
I just wish I could thank all of you personally, because, you know, I think everyone on YouTube knows this. I'm nothing without you. I'm just some guy talking into a microphone. If there's no one there listening, I'm just some crazy guy making videos that no one watches. So I thank you all. Boy, that seems like a very kind way to end, doesn't it?
I was expecting the PBS little if by viewers by you.
All right.
Yeah, it's like that's what I want. Is I want more recommendations of good comics.
You'll get them. They're coming.
Yes.
All right. And this is where I say, until next time. Thank you all. Have a great night.
You too. Bye.
Good night.
And to you, lovely YouTube audience that I sadly ignored. Thank you for showing up. And thank you for your donations if you made any. I'm glad you were here to listen in on basically a conversation between me and a bunch of other people you couldn't see. I will try to do this more often. I make no promises. But thank you for hanging out and listening to me regardless. I appreciate it. And have a good night.